Good evening, guys. Your bro Richie Rich here. Again, tonight in this video, I'm back with another explanation video for y'all. And tonight in this video, I'll be talking to you about intercoolers. So without any further ado, let's get started. So, an intercooler is a heat exchanger used to cool a gas after compression. Often found in turbo motors, intercoolers are also used in air compressors, air conditioners, refrigeration, and gas turbines. And the next part, internal combustion motors, which will soon die out eventually. Most commonly used, uh, so internal combustion engines, which will die out, or will they? I'll explain a little bit. Most commonly used with turbo motors and intercoolers used to counteract the heat of compression and heat soak in the pressurized intake air. By reducing the temperature of the intake air, the air becomes denser, allowing more fuel to be injected, resulting in increased power, and less likely to suffer from either pre-ignition or knocking. Additional cooling can be provided by externally spraying a fine mist onto the intercooler surface or even into the intake air itself to further reduce intake charge temperature through evaporative cooling. Intercoolers can vary dramatically in size, shape, and design, depending on the both performance and space requirements of the system. Many passenger cars use either front-mounted uh, located in either the front bumper or grill opening. So either the front bumper or grill opening, or top-mounted intercoolers located above the motor. So located above the motor, for example, a Subaru STI that uses a top-mounted intercooler located above its flat 4 boxer motor, turbocharged 2.5 liter EJ257 or or EJ27, whatever. An intercooling system can be an intercooling system can use an air-to-air, either an air-to-air design, air-to-liquid design, or a combination of both. Next, multiple stages of compression. In automotive motors where multiple stages of forced induction are used, for example, sequential twin turbo or twin charged motors, as both so turbocharging and supercharging motor. That's called twin charging motor. The intercooling usually takes place after the last turbo slash supercharger. So usually takes place after the last turbo supercharger. However, it's also possible to use separate intercoolers for each stage of the turbo or supercharging, such as in the JCB Diesel Max Land Speed Record race car. Some aircraft motors also use an intercooler. Some aircraft motors also use an intercooler for each stage of the forced induction. In motors with two-stage turbocharging, the term intercooler can specifically refer to the cooler between the twin turbos, and the term aftercooler is used for the cooler located between the second stage turbo and the motor. However, the terms intercooler and charge air cooler are often used regardless of the location in the intake system. Next is method of heat transfer. Air to Next is method of heat transfer. Air to air intercoolers are heat exchangers. So air to air intercoolers are heat exchangers that transfer heat from the intake air. Uh, so that transfer heat from the intake air directly into the atmosphere. Alternatively, alternatively, air to liquid or air to fluid, as I like to call it, intercoolers, um, transfer the heat from the intake air to intermediate liquid, usually water, H2O, which in turn transfers the heat to the atmosphere, which in turn transfers the heat to the atmosphere. Um, the heat exchanger that transfers the heat from the fluid to the atmosphere operates in a similar fashion to the main radiator in a water-cooled motor's cooling, water-cooled engine's cooling system, or in some cases, the motor's cooling system is also used for the intercooling system. Air to liquid intercoolers are usually heavier than their air to air counterparts due to additional components making up the system, for example, water circulation pump, radiator, fluid, and plumbing. I'd rather go with air to air intercoolers, which just makes it much lighter. And it saves a bunch of space as well without adding any water pumps or anything like that, radiator, blah 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 blah. So air to air intercoolers is the best choice, in my opinion. So my advice, if you want to go with the intercooler, go with the air to air intercooler because it'll be much lighter than the air to fluid intercooler, which will make it much more heavier, and you wouldn't want that. And it will affect performance as well. Anyways, example, water circulation pump, radiator, fluid, and plumbing. The majority of marine motors use air to fluid intercoolers, since the water of the lake, river, or sea, can easily be assessed for cooling purposes. In addition, most marine motors are located in closed counterparts, where obtaining a good flow of cooling air from an air-to-air unit would be difficult. Marine intercoolers take the form of a tubular heat exchanger, where the air passing around a series of tubes. So where the air passing around a series of tubes. So with the air passing around a series of tubes within the cooler casing and seawater circulating inside the tubes. The main materials used for this kind of application are meant to resist seawater corrosion. Both copper nickel for the tubes, and bronze for the seawater covers. Next, alternatives. An alternative to using intercoolers, which is rarely used these days, was to inject excess fuel uh, into the combustion chamber so that the vaporization process would cool down the cylinders in order to prevent knocking. However, the downsides to this method were increased both fuel consumption and exhaust gas emissions, which is a big issue. Alright, last part is air compressors now into there. Intercoolers are used to remove the waste heat from from the first stage of two stage the first stage of two stage. So the stage one of stage two air compressors. Two stage air compressors. So stage two air compressors are manufactured because of their inherent efficiency. The cooling action of the intercoolers principally responsible for this higher efficiency, bringing it close to Carnot efficiency, removing the heat of compression from the discharge of the first stage has the effect of densifying the air charge. This in turn allows the second stage 2, to produce more work from its fixed compression rate. So this in turn allows the second stage, so stage 2 to provide more work from its fixed compression ratio. Last part, and I'll end it there. And then, so last part, and I'll end it there. Adding an intercooler to the setup requires additional investments. So requires additional investments. Alright, that is officially for intercoolers. So that'll be it. I'll see you guys soon in the next video. Peace.